Today on Sports Central, we go over a college football game preview and prediction on a big matchup coming up here in the Big Ten in Week 13 of this 2021 college football season. And it'll be over the Penn State Nittany Lions and the Michigan State Spartans. Huge matchup for both these teams as we head into Week 13. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today. Starting out with your team trends, Penn State beat Rutgers 20-0 last week. They're 7-4 overall. Solid one for Penn State. I mean, Rutgers is on the verge of being a bowl team, so to shut out the Scarlet Knights was not a terrible win. And they're going up against Michigan State. The Spartans got destroyed by Ohio State last week, 7-56. Just a rough game all around for Michigan State. And I said this going in, it just was a terrible matchup for Michigan State. I mean, you got a defensive secondary that is one of the worst in the Big Ten, and you're going up against Ohio State, who's got three of the best receivers in the nation. With Chris Olave and Jigba, and of course you got Garrett Wilson as well. So Ohio State is a phenomenal football team at the passing position, and Michigan State having to go up against that just was not a good matchup. But they're 9-2 heading into this matchup now, one game losing streak as well. This game will be on Saturday, November 27th, East Lansing, Michigan. So Spartans are the home team for this matchup. 3:30 p.m. Eastern time is your kickoff time. Spread is currently even. That is a rarity. There's actually not a spread for this game. It is even right now between Penn State and Michigan State. Makes sense because you got two football teams here that are kind of in, well, they're in different situations, but I mean, talent-wise, I mean, Penn State is coming in off of a great win, and they certainly have a lot at stake bowl-wise, and Michigan State does too, but Michigan State's coming off of a pretty terrible loss here. So, yeah, your spread is even right now. Over-under is 51.5, and your FPI is going Penn State, 52.1%. So if the spread will eventually lean anywhere, I'm assuming it'll go towards Penn State, but they'll probably change over the course of the week. But series history, we've actually got a tied series here as well, 17-17. Win streak is Penn State by 2. Last 5, Penn State leads at 3-2. So Nittany Lions have had more success in recent history, although the overall series is tied 17-all. Here's your stat comparison for this matchup. Penn State's got 26 points per game, 15 points allowed, 270 pass yards a game, 110 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, 202 passing, 131 for rushing. So, I mean, overall, solid stats for Penn State. Defensively, they're one of the best in the conference, and I think their defense is pretty underrated. I mean, statistically, they've been great. 15 points allowed per game. Offensively, I mean, they've got a good offense, but it just has not performed up to the level that many would have expected for Penn State this season. Michigan State, 32 points per game, 25 points allowed, 243 pass yards a game, 185 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, 339 passing, and then 123 for rushing. That is as high of a number as I've ever seen for a number of pass yards allowed per game. 339, that is horrendous, and that really needs to be fixed up here for Michigan State as we head into the later parts of this season and into the postseason. I mean, you're not going to be any good team, especially one that's good with passing the ball and one that's got a good receiving core when you're allowing 339 pass yards per game. So that's got to be fixed. Michigan State, that's the thing though. I mean, this team is just not talented and they're very inexperienced in the defensive secondary. So that's been an issue, and we saw that. I mean, Ohio State scored like 49 points in the first half. So I mean, they were they were on fire against Michigan State's defensive secondary, and yeah, so that's a big issue for Michigan State. And if you look at Penn State, I mean, Penn State is more of a heavier passing offense, so that is a concern for Michigan State heading into this matchup. But I mean, Penn State doesn't have anywhere near the talent at the receiving position that Ohio State does, so that is good for Michigan State in that way. But some recent matchups here, Penn State beat Rutgers 20-0 once again. Lost to Michigan by 4. That was a close game, 17-21. Beat Maryland 31-14. Lost to Ohio State by 11, and lost to Illinois. That loss to Illinois is still just a baffling one to me. 9 overtimes, lost by 2, and Illinois is a bottom half team in the Big Ten. So obviously that was just a bad loss there. But otherwise, I mean, Ohio State, Michigan, they kept it somewhat close. But that Illinois loss was inexcusable, to say the least. Michigan State lost to Ohio State 7-56, beat Maryland 40-21, lost to Purdue. That was also kind of an interesting loss there. I mean, Purdue's a decent football team. They're better than Illinois. So it was kind of, I mean, it was more of a reasonable loss, especially considering the Boilermakers have been a big dark horse team that has competed very well against good football teams. But yeah, so they lost to Purdue there by 11. beat Michigan 37-33. That's the signature win of the season to this point for the Spartans, and they beat Indiana as well 22-15. So Penn State has lost 3 of their last 5. Michigan State has lost 2 of their last 3. So, yeah, kind of a tough month for both these teams. Both teams have taken a couple of losses, but the Big Ten East, it was going to separate eventually. I mean, we had 4 teams in the top 15, I think, at one point in the Big Ten East with Penn State, Michigan State. We had Ohio State, Michigan. So, I mean, that Big Ten East division looks stacked. I mean, back in October, it was crazy, and it was going to separate eventually, and we've kind of found out who are the top teams in that division, which it tends to be Ohio State and Michigan, even though Sparty did beat Michigan a couple of weeks ago, but Michigan State has since taken a couple of losses. But yeah, still, I mean, a lot of high stakes in this matchup as well, bowl-wise. I mean, Michigan State wins this game, they should be in a New Year's Six bowl game, and Penn State is out of the, I mean, they're out of the picture for a New Year's Six bowl game, but Michigan State is very much still in that picture. Like Fiesta Bowl, Peach Bowl is very much within reach for the Spartans, and for Penn State, I mean, you could still get to, I mean, at an 8-4 record, if you can win this game. Citrus Bowl, Outback Bowl is still within reach, which both of those bowl games are certainly not terrible bowl games. So, I mean, once again, New Year's Six bowl game is out of reach for Penn State, but you can still get to a halfway decent bowl game against a good SEC opponent. Yeah, so for Penn State, team has shown potential but has been inconsistent. I mean, this team kind of fell off after that Illinois loss, and we've seen how inconsistent this team can be. But yeah, Penn State, very talented football team here. It's been a tough, I mean, the Big Ten is stacked this year. This is a very good season for the Big Ten Conference. And so for Penn State, I mean, it's been a decent season, but obviously, I mean, there have been some inconsistencies with the Nittany Lions. But passing game is favorable against the Spartans. I mean, this team is going to have to, I mean, Sean Clifford, they're going to have to come to play passing-wise against Michigan State. That's how you're going to win this game offensively. And, I mean, this is a big chance at a quality win as well. I mean, it's been kind of a tough past month for Penn State, losing 3 games. You got a good chance to get a big quality win against your rival. Michigan State pass defense could not handle Ohio State. It is safe to say. I mean, C.J. Stroud's stats were outstanding in that game. I mean, it was nothing like I've ever seen. But yeah, Michigan State, they got to play much better in this game. They've still got potential to make it to a New Year's Six bowl game. So even though college football playoff is not in the picture anymore, Spartans definitely still have a chance for a very good bowl game. So for Michigan State, got to stay motivated. I mean, that's the thing, is how are they going to come out and play in this matchup? They got the home field advantage as well, so potentially that could help them too. But that said, let's get to the prediction here. This is a tough one to predict, almost a coin toss. I'm going Penn State, 27-24. So I've got the Nittany Lions taking the win in East Lansing against Michigan State. This was a tough one to predict. Once again, I mean, this is as hard as it gets. So it's going to be 51% towards Penn State. The reason why I took the Nittany Lions is because their passing offense is favorable, and we saw how this defensive secondary was last week, and how is Michigan State going to respond? I mean, this is a football team that has some inexperience, even though, I mean, that's why Michigan State has been such a surprise team this season, is because of how young they are as a football team. So for Michigan State here, I mean, how is this team going to bounce back? It's going to be a big question going into this game, and I think they come back, and I think they fight in this game. But Penn State, Penn State is a very good football team, and I mean, it surprises me to see that they've got 4 losses and that they're 7-4. But yeah, so Penn State, I'm going to go with them to go on the road, get the win. 51.5 is your over-under. I'm taking the under for this matchup by 0.5 point. So obviously it's tough to bet on there, but I do have Penn State covering, even though the line is even right now. We'll see where the spread goes. I'm pretty sure I think it's probably going to end up being Penn State by a point eventually. Penn State probably will probably end up taking a point in the spread, but we'll see what happens. Still got a few days until the game starts. So anyway, that said, Penn State, I've got them in this game, 27-24. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game, and I appreciate you guys all watching. As always, stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you later.